Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Water harvesting and management is the next topic today. We will discuss about this topic, and this topic is very important as well for climate change because water scarcity is a big threat and future. And 2030 in South Asia there is going to be a threat and water scarcity. Water scarcity means limitation of water. The water is going to be uh, uh, becoming lower and lower day by day. So, adapting to climate change will require even more emphasis than is currently given to improving water management and water harvesting and rain-fed regions. Many traditional techniques already in use to improve rainwater use efficiency can be shared using farmer to farmer methods. In India, over 35 traditional rainwater harvesting systems have been identified. According to scientists, no regret intervention in Sri Lanka is the restoration of the ancient tank storage system in the country to provide insurance against climate variability in the most vulnerable districts. Other no regrets interventions for water and agriculture are rainwater harvesting, development of sustainable groundwater, adoption of micro irrigation technologies, and wastewater reuse practices and transitions that increase diversity. Diverse seeds, mixed animal cropping systems, and mixed cropping forest systems. Uh, Resilience can be built through increasing biological diversity. Both biological and livelihood diversity can be increased through increasing the variety of crops grown at one time on the parcel of land and by adding trees and or animals into the system. Farmers can also increase diversity in their fields by growing different varieties of the same crop that have different attributes. Supporting soil health increases the diversity of organisms in the soil, which are responsible for benefits such as increased access to nutrients and reduction of diseases and pests. Experience suggests that farmers who increase diversity suffering less damage during adverse weather events. Well-known example comes from year 2008 in Central America when a devastating hurricane hit the region. Researchers showed that diversified farmers suffered much less damage than non-diversified farmers. Sustainable plots had 20 to 40% more topsoil, greater soil moisture, and less erosion. So there are 4 points in this slide. In one slide, we discuss about water harvesting and management of the water. Then we have some three examples about it. So, in the first example, we have 35 traditional water harvesting systems in India. As scientists suggest that if there is flooding in India, India has these rainwater harvesting systems, and these traditional rainwater harvesting system can contribute and harvesting of crops very well. Scientists also suggest that intervention of regrets or of the flood in Sri Lanka is also the restoration of the ancient tank storage system in the country, which provide insurance to the rainwater harvesting, and also it give no regret of intervention for water and agriculture. When there is flood or any other disaster due to climate change. So these water irrigation systems can provide water harvesting, and it can be reused through irrigation technologies and wastewater reuse. So practices and traditional increase of diversity also very important in Sri Lanka and some other countries as well, that diverse seeds, mixed animal cropping systems, and mixed cropping forest system can be built through increasing biological diversity. Both biological diversity and livelihood diversity is also very much important, and it can be increased through different practices by different time. So both animals and crops, they can share the threats which the farmers should or the aftershocks which the farmer should face in future, as I discussed before in my classes with you people. So farmers can also increase diversity through in their fields by growing different varieties of the same crop. When they will use different variety of the same crop in their soil, and supporting soil health, increase diversity of the organisms in soil which are responsible for the benefits such as increased access to nutrition and reduction of diseases and pests is also very important. If they do not use if they use usually the traditional way of method, and the practices of agriculture would be traditional way of agriculture practices, then it would not be suffered, and the farmer would have some of the production after the impact of climate change as well. So experiences also suggest that farmers have increased in their diversity, less suffer damage during the adverse when there were adverse weather events taken place in some of the places. A well-known example comes from Central America when devastating hurricane is it is about type of flood and some you can say it when there is a large number of rain come with the storm, so it hits the region. So when it took place, so the researchers showed that the diversified farmers, those farmers who had diversified agricultural practices and sustainable plot, had for 20 to 40% more topsoil, greater soil moisture, and less erosion took place with them. So the traditional way of method and sustainable way of method can improve the farmer productivity as well, and water harvesting and management play an important role in climate change as well. So in the next slide, we will discuss about giving farmers and communities tools to enhance and use their collective knowledge. Farming and pastoralist, I told you before that it is livestock. So communities have a wealth of knowledge about how to produce food and maintain food security and situation of climate variability. No regret options will include strengthening the capacity of small-scale farmers, women's pastoralists, and indigenous and community-based organizations to access productive resources and to share with each other ecological agriculture approaches for the adaptation. The traditional variety of the millet grown across the region are one example of the knowledge currently stewarded by local communities to address drought and climate variability. Both the seeds and the knowledge of the seeds drought resistance qualities are important to maintain and disseminate in the region. Farmers, field schools, and other types of documentation and dissemination efforts are important means to share the seeds, and many successful approaches to adaptation that have been developed by communities throughout the region. Women's organizations and particular have played a central role in establishing and maintaining community seed banks. So, in this slide, we have the conclusion from this slide is that giving farmers and community tool to enhance and use their collective knowledge. When they have collective knowledge, so they will have to share their risks, both in farming and pastoralist communities would both jointly have to share their experiences and knowledges, and to produce food and maintain food security in situation of climate variability. So no regret mean that when there would not be regret for these communities when they would face extreme climate vulnerability. So the options of the strengthening the capacity of the small scale farmer is those women who have livelihood practices and the community based organization and have access to what's productive resources to share each other ecological agriculture approaches of adaptation. So the traditional variety of these livelihoods are very important about seeds, and the knowledge of the seeds, drought resistance qualities, and important to maintain and disseminate in the region. So farmers, field schools, and other types of the documentation and dissemination efforts and important means to share the seeds and many successful approaches to adoption that have been developed by communities throughout the region is also very important. So women can play an important role in improving its livelihood efforts, and farmers who are practicing for their agriculture productivity can also play an important role during the no regret time in climate change. So thank you.